Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Detroit Sports Sit Down. My name is Tom Murphy Jr. I've got Dan Murphy and Joe Perry with me, and we are S-O-L mediocre. We just watched another Lions defeat. This is 4 out of 5. It was a fun game to watch. There were some super highlights. 2 great wide receivers on the field most of the game.
No defenses out there.
Yeah, no defenses out there. I don't know, guys. Okay, here we are. Right smack dab in the middle of the season. It's November now. It's getting dark at 6 o'clock. Man, everything's depressing. And the sun has set on the Lions season once again before the second half even starts. I mean, okay, so we're beyond frustrated right now because this is just another Lions season of woulda, coulda, shoulda, what ifs, but SOL. Like just a bunch of stuff, man. And they just sit here at 3-4-1. So I mean, guys, what is there to talk about? I mean, there's a lot to talk about with this game and with this team, but where do you start without just saying that it's just another season that is not a success. So
my problem is we got a defensive guru, and we have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Why are we not rushing the quarterbacks? Why are we sitting back rushing 2 guys and 3 guys? We lead the league in 2 and 3 rushing. You have to put pressure on people because it causes mistakes. You do the same thing in hockey. You forecheck.
Yeah.
You cause turnovers. They're all pros. If you sit there in a clean pocket, ask Michigan's quarterback, Shea Patterson, you sit there in a clean pocket, no pressure, you're going to put the ball where it needs to go. That's the problem, I feel like. We're just sitting back, and our defensive guru doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, in this bend don't break style, you trade your one starting safety, and then the next week your starting safety, your other safety, Tracy Walker, is out. So now you're down 2 starting safeties, but you're still not changing up the fact that maybe we should rush the quarterback.
Yeah, the last guy that said that's gone. Well, I mean that's what I think.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm frustrated. The game was entertaining, though. Were you not entertained, Dan? But like, is this just not typical Lions because they keep you entertained enough? And we were right in it until the last play of the game, which obviously we're going to have to discuss. But Dan, I just want your overall thoughts before we break down the actual last play, which is the main topic of the last game. Just where the Lions are at right now with this loss. It's just so annoying, but it's so typical.
It's the same Lions team we've seen for Stafford's entire career. He's a great talent. He's a great quarterback. We can argue whether he's a top 10 quarterback or not. I think he's right in that range. But he's having an MVP type season, and he's got nothing around him. He's got 2 pretty good receivers, Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay. Both went over 100 yards in this game.
Yeah,
but outside of that, that's it.
Really great.
That's it.
Good.
And it's the same thing. No running game whatsoever to complement
the
rushing
actually
game.
Wasn't that bad, as bad as you guys think. It was 20 carries for 90 yards, so it's 4.5 yards a carry. So it really wasn't the best rushing game, but it wasn't bad. So I don't know if
it's not anywhere near consistent enough, and they
not,
can't stop the run on the other side. They give up almost 200 yards a game.
The problem isn't the offense. I don't feel like the problem's the defense. I mean, they're one of the worst defenses in the league.
Well, it's both because if you can't run the ball, then you can't keep your defense out the field.
Yeah, it does hurt.
And if you do have good drives, they're quick drives, so your defense goes right back on the field again. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to at least run the ball a little bit to get consistent drives going. Because if you're constantly throwing the ball, you go 3 and out, boom, you take no time off the clock. You don't give your defense a chance to rest. You don't give your defense a chance to make some adjustments. And that's the other side of the thing. Like, they can't stop the run. So
Yeah,
it goes back to
Stafford
anything.
threw 41
Any team in
times.
the NFL you look at, if you can't stop the run and you can't run the ball, you're not going to be successful. It doesn't matter how great your quarterback is. It doesn't matter even if you got a pass rush, which they don't, which they spend a ton of money on, and they still don't have any pass rush. We've been talking about that all year. It goes back to everything. I mean, obviously we're going to get into this game a little bit more, but I think the questions at this point are the coaching staff and Bob Quinn, the general manager, because this is the same team we've been seeing for years. Stafford's whole career. There's nothing around him. They have Stafford. They have a good passing game. That's it. There's nothing else.
Well, Stafford did throw the ball 41 times, and they did run 20 times, so that isn't balanced. You want to be more balanced, and especially with getting Bevell, everyone kept saying, we're gonna run the ball, we're gonna run the ball, we're gonna run the ball, and when you can't run the ball, then you're gonna have to throw it, and that's part of the problem as well.
Now that comes down. I mean, it's a whole philosophy situation with that, man. It's because the Lions have not been able to run the ball for years and years and years, and this year it was supposed to be the focus on the run, and you had, the bell cow with carry on. And I know we could just insert the clip from last week and the week before, but carry on, while he didn't miss a lot of games in college, he was injury prone. He was beaten up. He was already a beaten up runner coming in. So if you're going to draft him that high and use him in a spotlight position, why don't you have a secondary plan in place? Why isn't there? Why didn't they make a move? Why didn't they make a move at the trade deadline? And then what do you get? Yeah, he gets hurt. He gets too many carries and he gets hurt.
Especially they dropped C.J. Anderson for Pierce, right? Was it Pierce?
They dropped C.J. Anderson, who he played really well last year. However you want to take it. Well, they picked up Perkins again. They keep picking up and dropping him.
Yeah, but didn't they drop C.J. Anderson's for Perkins?
Yeah,
and he hasn't done anything. I mean, he had 3 carries for 16 yards, which is decent for 3 carries, but I mean, C.J. Anderson was pretty much a good backup running back. Last year he was awesome. This year he's kind of started off slow, but he was someone that you counted on as a backup running back. I don't think you can count on any of these other guys to be every down back or, one and first and second down back.
All right, with this in mind, let's get the professional explanation, and then we'll break it down because there's just so much to talk about.
We thought we had a play in there which was pretty influential from that standpoint, and thought we were going to be able to get an opportunity there, knowing that they were probably going to bring pressure, or at least they had a lot of big guys out there to begin with. So from that standpoint, really thought that play, had a good chance in practice, and thought we had a good chance with it today. Just obviously didn't execute it very well, and they played it really well. We always got a couple plays on the sheet that we can go to, and really I think in that situation that was the one being so close down in there, we thought drew the most attention. We were trying to get outside of the edge right there, and we didn't. So they kind of beat us there on the inside part of it and got through. So and again, I think we're trying to go through the rest of the game and take a look to see what worked earlier in the game, what didn't work. We had a couple shots down in the red area too that didn't work when we had some of those other guys out there. So kind of all of it again, just being inconsistent, not really feeling like any of it was just kind of clicking on all cylinders from that standpoint.
Oh God! Just all right. Listening to that, it just makes me so angry because I know what I was sitting. Look, I'm not in the NFL, man. I just sit here and I watch football, but I've been doing it for years, and I was so freaking angry on a couple of levels with this whole thing because, for one, the Lions, when they got down to fourth and when it looked like a clown show, and I couldn't believe that Gruden on the Raiders side called timeout.
Yeah.
Neither could anybody else. So but I guess Gruden said he didn't like the matchups or whatever. He just wanted to call timeout, get his defense set. Great job by him, clearly.
It worked, yeah.
It worked. But everybody thought the Lions got a gift, which they did. They got to set up a play. And then what do I see during the timeout? I see the 2 best players on the field at that time, Galladay and Marvin Jones, trotting off the field together.
I know.
Wait, what's happening?
I saw the
where
same
are they going?
thing.
Why are they leaving the field? Why are these guys leaving the field? And then okay, here comes the lineup, and they're all bunched together. I'm like, they're not gonna run the ball. They're not gonna run this. They don't have our money back to do this. Oh no, it's a bootleg. And then they have a rusher come straight up the middle. It's like they basically goes unblocked.
Yeah.
You're in an I formation bootleg, and a guy comes rushing up the middle anyway. Like, and then you throw an off balance pass to a third string tight end when your two best receivers are on the sideline. When you were gifted a timeout to come up with a play.
I mean, you said it perfectly there. I mean, that's everything I think all of us thought. We all knew. Our best two players off the field, we knew they weren't going to run
Both
the ball.
these receivers got over 100 yards.
I know.
Like,
they both are, over 6'4", and you're going to take those guys off the field.
Hawkinson was out too.
That was just such a bad play call. You need
how
your
could
best
it be?
players
Why
on
was
the
that
field.
such a bad? Was that like what do you think, Dan? Let me bring you in here, man, because I know you got to be fired up about this, man. Like, was this Daryl Bevell just trying to outsmart himself from when he didn't just rush Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl? Like, was he having some type of flashback and think he'd be the smartest guy? And I don't understand what this was.
I won't do it again. They don't think I'll do it again.
This is a play that you run when you've been running up and down the field on them with a running game, which they obviously weren't.
Yeah.
They didn't have their starting running back in Kerryon Johnson. They have backup running backs who aren't very good. Okay, their offensive line hasn't been very good. So you cross that out. They're not a very good running team. They're not going to run the ball. So nobody in the stadium thought they were going to run the ball here, right?
No.
You run this play when you have a stud tight end who you can bootleg to and throw it up to. That would be Hawkinson.
Somebody you draft in the first round.
Hawkinson was hurt. Hawkinson was hurt. He was out of the game. So you don't have a running game for them to fall for it. So when that end came off the edge and went straight to Stafford, he wasn't crashing down the line of scrimmage to try to stop the run because he wasn't expecting a run, because why would you when they have one of the worst running games in the NFL, right? So he wasn't crashing down the line of scrimmage. You run a bootleg when the end is crashing. The end's not crashing because he's not expecting run in that situation. So he ran right at Stafford. Stafford had to throw it off balance. Yeah. Now he's throwing it off balance too. Not Hawkinson, because Hawkinson's out of the game. You're throwing into a third-string tight end. Everything that you would want in that play to run that was not there for the Lions in that situation. Mm-hmm. They had a timeout to figure that out, and they still came up with that play. Well, it worked in practice. Well, yeah, you probably had Hawkinson for one in on that play in practice, and you're throwing it up to him, the guy you drafted top 10. You weren't throwing it to Thomas, the guy you drafted in the 7th round. How they could come out of that at a timeout and said, this is our best opportunity to score on this play is beyond me. You threw for 400 yards in that game. You didn't run well. Hawkinson's out. Your best opportunity is to figure out your best goal line play to get it to either Galladay or Jones. Mm-hmm. That is your best option. Hell, I don't care. Line up in the shotgun. I don't give a damn. Nobody else is thinking you're going to run it anyways. Give him the best opportunity.
Yeah, and when you take Galladay and Jones out of the lineup, they're on the sidelines. So they were betting. The Lions were betting that Gruden and the Raiders would honestly believe that they were going to try to run it and just stack it all. I don't understand how you can make that bluff, man. I don't. Why couldn't you? If you were gonna pass the ball, why not just be the Lions, like Stafford, dude. Spread it, dude. Take 4 receivers, man. Put Galladay on one side and Jones on the other. You got Amendola, and then take
Ty Johnson or something.
Yeah, you can split him up. You go 4 receivers in the shotgun.
You don't put all your chips in the middle of the table. Your season is basically on the line. You have to score on this play. You don't put it all on the line and say, we think they are going to make the mistake. No. You put the ball in your best player's hands. You got to win this game. You got to make this play. You guys make the play. Don't depend on the defense to make a mistake because you think you're going to outthink them. No, they just called a timeout to prepare for this. You figure out your best goal line play to your best players. You have your best players on the field.
And there was no other option because everybody was stacked in. There was no other place to throw the ball there.
Yeah, that's why.
And he had no time.
There was no time.
No time because again, on a bootleg, you're depending on the defensive player to make the mistake.
Now, is there any, because when you watch that play in slow motion, I forget the defensive back, but he did have Logan Thomas wrapped up with his underarm.
A little bit.
I was a little bit mad, but I did not hear any cries about a bad call. All the anger is on the actual play call itself and how
it's a horrendous play call. And
but
I go back.
You didn't see any. You didn't see nothing. I saw a little something. I was
a little bit, but I'm not gonna.
Not
get
on the last play.
No, I'm not gonna get up and
it wasn't egregious enough to be like, hey, man, you know.
That's a whole other thing of what I think pass interference should be.
Yeah.
Anyways, it should be only called when it's egregious.
And it wasn't. I did see his lower arm like wrapped around him a bit. Like there was some contact there. But I'm not. But that's not. Chance. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not bailing nobody out on that.
This play call, though. This play call reminds me of a couple years ago. Caldwell against Baltimore Ravens when they had 9 guys on the field on defense in the biggest defensive play in a game they had to have.
Yeah,
and he didn't. In a play that was before it, could have thrown a challenge flag.
Yeah.
So not only he could have just thrown the challenge flag, but used the timeout. You needed to use the timeout anyways because you got 9 guys on the field. Yeah. Didn't throw a challenge flag. Didn't call a timeout. And I said at that we did a podcast after that game. Yeah. I said that decision is a fireable offense. Yeah. And he got fired at the end of the year. So this decision, to me, is a fireable offense because the season is on the line.
The whole staff now.
The whole staff.
I think so. And Dan, exactly. That's what I want to lead into now. Are we at the point where, like, no matter what happens the rest of the season, is this the breaking point? Where
I think it is. I think this in combination with the trading of Diggs, how upset it made the locker room, how upset it made Slay. Now you got Slay after this game pretty much calling out the coaches.
Yeah.
All of it. I mean, this is where
do you go now?
When we look back, if these coaches are gone at the end of the year, you look back at this moment.
They said Slay and Patricia talked and they're on the same page.
Yeah,
that's what they're saying.
Once Slay didn't get traded, and now they got to ride the rest of the year on. The agents and the PR people are talking. It's not Slay and Patricia aren't sitting in there and having a heart to heart.
Oh yeah, they did.
This is I don't know. Maybe not. Slay was pretty much non-existent. But if Slay's non-existent, that's pretty much a good thing because it means like he's the shut down side. They didn't target him.
So he was fine.
He was doing it, and that's his job. His job is to make sure.
Yeah, their best wide receiver only had 48 yards.
Yeah, and that's Slay doing. That's a shutdown defensive corner doing his job. You don't get major penalties. You don't give up touchdowns, and
you're just noticeable. You're not even noticeable.
Yeah,
unless you intercept the ball.
But so even with this though, the secondary was leaky, man. It was leaky. But when you don't have your 2 starting safeties. And you're playing a patchwork group right now.
But that was the thing.
But they weren't. The defense was bad, but they weren't.
Oh, they were awful.
Bad. They made some plays. I mean,
knew they were going to score.
It was a back and forth game, and they were okay.
It's Oakland. They gave them 31 points to Oakland.
200 rushing yards.
I know. I guess I can't. I tried, guys. I tried. I can't. I don't.
171 rushing yards.
I don't know. And they did. And once again, they didn't come up with the big shutdown. When that game was tied late, they couldn't get the big stops. They let.
That was the best I've seen Carr look in a long time. He was dropping the ball in the
tight
windows.
That before.
That's because he had all the time in the world. And that's the problem. It really is.
So
you got to get pressure on that quarterback.
And why aren't we getting pressure? Is it because Patricia is still trying to stick with the philosophy that he has? And
yes.
But why? How long is it going to take for him to figure it out that it's not working? I feel
like he got rid of Diggs because Diggs spoke up about it. So what's going to have to change is, like Dan said, him getting fired, but that's what he believes.
I hate doing this constantly. How many more times are we going to do this? Go through a new
fire the coach,
fire the coach. They're the problem. So to me, it's even above that. And you got to look at the general manager. Yeah. Look at all these picks that have been wasted.
Yeah. Wasted picks, and you can.
And I want to point out the one that is always gonna sit when you talk about Bob Quinn is Tease Tabor, because he drafted him saying he talked like he was the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I watched more film on this player than any player I've ever watched in my life. Well, guess what happened to him? And
look,
it ends up
man,
getting cut down the road.
he
never made any plays for them. They put a second-round pick on him
did.
because he said, well, I don't care about the numbers.
Guy was a football player, though, and
he was obvious, but he was wrong.
Yes.
He was dead wrong. And why was Tate Tabor not a good football player?
But yeah, because he was slow.
That's
and
it.
everybody knew it. And
everybody knew it, so everybody
game.
else didn't draft
but
him.
Not even, I mean, there are diamonds in the rough, and I think Bob Quinn thought he might have found his, but a second round, too much, man. I wanted to defend Quinn on this because when I watched Cheese Tabor in college, I saw the same stuff, man. I'm like, this guy's a football player, man. He was a ball hawk. He hit. He made big plays in big games, man. Like, he was a football player, and I got that but I think Cheese Tabor probably would have gone third or fourth round. He reached for him.
He was dropping.
It was a reach and a miss because he was slow. And in the NFL, that's where everybody's fast. Everybody has talent. So sometimes it does come down to those quick things. But we'll see about another second round pick this year in Tavai, who seems to be stepping up a bit now. He's making tackles. He's making some big plays.
I don't think he's been
and he's
horrible.
A guy that was reached for. So maybe we could see a balance on that, but because I don't defend Bob Quinn on the Cheese Tabor pick in the second round because facts speak, and the facts are he's not in the league anymore. Man, we cut him and nobody picked him up.
Well, Jared Davis.
I still want to believe in Jared Davis.
How many times are you going to say that? He's a great athlete.
I don't. Well, that's what I wonder.
Like, who cares?
Can he bulk up and can we put him on the outside and get him to start just really get his only job is to get after the quarterback? I wonder if he could put on 15 pounds. I don't know how easy that is to do.
Hasn't he done that already?
Because they want him to be, I think because they want him to be that middle guy. They haven't committed to making the switch for him yet, which could be a fault of Patricia, and Bob Quinn both saying, man, well, we thought this guy was going to be that inside guy, that quick, but he can't. He's not doing great in pass coverage, and he's constantly overrunning his blitzes and his tackles. But he's fast. What if we train him to get him on the outside and only attack the quarterback?
Well, that's what we thought they were going to do.
He's not big enough to go after he's not big enough to go against the tackles, though. The big left and right tackles. So if he can get a little bit bigger, but I mean, people can't just get bigger, I guess. I mean, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, man. But if he could put on some strength and possibly become an edge rusher, he's got that speed to do it, especially if he's an outside linebacker that primarily blitzes.
Yeah, but that doesn't fit our scheme. We don't blitz.
That's what it is. You're going to have to change the whole scheme for him. But
that's what we thought. That's what they were going to do this year with him, but they haven't. They're just having. They're not blitzing at all. They're having everybody fall back and doing the man-man coverage.
Well, what's it going to take for Patricia to figure it out, man? This defensive guru.
I don't know.
And he's not. They still say, what's it, Paul Pasquale? I still have Pasqualoni. I mean, is this guy really? Is he really the one calling the plays?
Too. He just hired his mentor.
Yeah.
Nobody was going to hire him in the league.
Yeah.
But he brought him in because he was his mentor.
And why? So
like, come on.
Who's making them? And Patricia is saying, no, he runs the defense. I stick to being the head coach. I'm trying to, still figure this out. He's the defensive coordinator. Well, aren't you the defensive guru genius? If you're the head coach of a team that has one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And in most categories, they're in the worst.
Well, for points, I actually pulled this up. For points, 27.1 points a game.
Which ranks?
Sixth worst. And then in total yards, they're actually second worst to the Bengals. So they actually let up more yards than the Dolphins and the Giants and the Cardinals.
Think about that. Think about that, man. We hired this guy because he was the defensive guru genius of the New England Patriots. And I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker, man. What I want to ask you guys...
424.1 yards a game.
Yeah, let me ask you guys, man. Matt Patricia is 1.5 seasons in as Lions head coach. And I want to ask you a hard line question. Would you, A, rather see him fired tomorrow or get a full third season? What would be better for the Lions as a whole?
I like to give coaches at least 3 years just to get their people in, to get them familiar with their team, to get their philosophy across to everybody. I like to at least give coaches for any sport at least 3 years. I hate just constantly change. I think constant change is bad. And you see it with our offensive coordinators, our defensive coordinators, our coaches, our front office, our GMs. It just sucks to always change, but it always seems like we get the wrong people because no other coach goes anywhere and does anything as a head coach. So, I don't know. I like to at least give someone 3 years. That's where I'm at.
Man, I'd give him the rest of the year.
That's not the question.
I know it's not the question. But he's not going to get fired tomorrow, so it's not even...
I'm just saying, hypothetically, what would be better for the Lions, do you think, in your opinion? If he just got fired today and they just straight started rebuilding for next year, or he is guaranteed all of next year?
I guess you just fire him. You fire him tomorrow then.
Because you don't believe in Patricia for a third year.
I haven't seen anything to give us reasons to think that he's a good head coach. Because he's a defensive genius, supposedly. That's what they brought him in for. They've had 2 years, 2 off seasons to bring in their guys, 2 drafts to bring in their guys, and they have one of the worst.
3.
What about Bill Belichick's first years with the Browns? He didn't do so good, and look at him now.
Yeah, well, I look at everybody from Belichick's coaching tree. None of them have panned out as NFL head coaches. There's talk maybe that Patricia would have been different. His second year, you have the second worst defense in the league. I don't know what else to say. Like, they went out and spent big time money on guys. They drafted guys, and they have the second worst defense in the league. And he's supposed to be a defensive genius. There's nothing else that can be said. He's not the guy, and he's making mistakes. I mean, they're making big mistakes and big moments.
All right, so knowing the organization like you do, what do you think will happen if the Lions, which I think they will do, they will go out and win a few more games. They're going to lose some games. They're going to be mediocre, just like I thought they were going to be anyway. They're going to have a mediocre season. Not what would you do, Dan, but what do you think is going to happen?
I think they're all going to get a third year.
You think they all will?
Or another year, in Quinn's case?
Yeah, I think so, too. You know how the Fords are.
Well, it's not just this. Well, obviously, Mr. Ford passed away, but Martha,
they're still loyal
Mrs.
people.
Ford.
They're going to give them time.
Well, the other thing is, too, with Bob Quinn, when they fired Caldwell, he flat out said that 9-7 is not good enough.
Exactly.
They're right, yeah.
So they're
at what time is he going to have to eat those words?
Yeah, I think it's...
He's going to have to eat those words 2 years in a row, most likely.
That's why I think the time is now.
Can we get Caldwell back?
You don't want Caldwell's not the answer either.
Where is he? Is he a scout somewhere? Because he certainly isn't a head coach or nobody's banging his door down. So, but people put those memes up on social media with Caldwell's face. Miss me yet? And it's like, no, man. Because you weren't doing much better. He was doing a little better,
He was our
man.
best coach
11 wins,
in a long
man.
time.
11 wins. 11 wins is a lot, man. And it was a tough season for a lot. The NFC North was good, really good that year.
NFC North is good all.
Yeah, they've been good for a while.
We
knew Caldwell wasn't the answer because
he wasn't getting over the hump. Exactly.
And he makes mistakes in key situations.
I know, so whose mistakes are even worse? So it's like Patricia's mistakes are even worse than Caldwell's now.
Yeah, he's worse than Caldwell. So they got to be gone.
So that means they both. So does Bob Quinn and Patricia both? Should they be fired together on the same day?
Yes.
Like, a lot of the talk was, like, when Bob Quinn fired Caldwell and brought in Patricia, they went hand in hand because they had the experience together, and Quinn was bringing in his boy. And he made the quote that you said, you know, we need to do better. And they're not doing better now. They're doing worse. So they're tied together. I wonder how it's going to play out, though. I wonder if they actually are tied together. And who is actually running this? And is it Martha Ford? Is she actually sitting there watching every game, calculating and saying, you know what, I'm gonna fire everybody. You know, we need a change in this. But what is the change, man? This franchise is the same. It's the same old Lions. And you could just say it again, man. Like, we weren't going to say... We had episodes on this show a couple years ago where we wanted to bury SOL and just say, this is not the same old Lions. This is a new future, man. It's a new wave. You know? But it's not. It's the same old stuff, man. Finding unique ways to lose, but always being mediocre at best and losing games that put the fans on the edge of their seats, man. When's the last time the Lions won like a really exciting game, man, that meant something? Not even a playoff game, because we don't have to talk about the playoffs. We don't got to talk about the playoffs. But just regular season games where it means something, man. Somewhere in like maybe late October, November, even December, where the Lions are they're right in it. And they're on national TV and they have a chance to win a big game. What's the memory? What's the last memory of one of those that you guys have that you can just take with you? Like, God, it feels good to be a Lions fan today. We're going somewhere, man. Lions, baby. Roar! what game? Honestly,
I don't know.
What's the first one that comes to your head?
That ended up meaning something when it was all said and done?
Not even that.
Patriots game last year.
Okay, yeah. Wait. God, week 3. But yeah, okay, yeah. Because mine is it was week 5 for the Bears. It was Lions Bears Monday night. You know, Jav at best. You know, God, and they've had more
wins than that.
No, like big, important, awesome, exciting.
That he remembers, just like
that stick in your head. You know,
yeah, I would say the Patriots game last year.
Patriots the one stuck in. Yeah,
they dominated the Patriots defensively, and you thought, okay, Patricia's obviously maybe that's true. Maybe he is, a defensive genius. Maybe he really knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
he was able to shut the Patriots down completely shut them down. On national television, that was a game where I thought, okay, maybe they got something here. Maybe they just don't have the players that he needs, but he knows what he's doing in terms of a game plan basis. And then you go into this year, they got more players that they wanted. They went out and freaking spent a ton of money on Trey Flowers. He's nowhere to be seen. Doesn't do anything. He hasn't made any big plays. Not a single one. The only play you know of him is the illegal hands to the face, which was obviously BS. But that's the only thing you know from him.
He had
a
few good plays against the Giants. In
a few good plays.
Unrememberable game.
The most money spent on any free agent was Trey Flowers. They got him in. They brought him into Detroit.
He had
a couple nice plays against the Giants.
It's only $90 million.
That's all we're saying.
$90 million.
It's ridiculous.
It's not that much money.
And it goes back. It goes on both of them, Quinn and Patricia, because Patricia was trying to get him in because it's one of his guys that he coached at the Patriots.
So, all right. What do you do now if you're a Lions fan? Because this is
wait till next year.
Well, yeah, that's what it. Wait till. So, are you going to go on social media and still hype up the Lions? Are you going to diss the haters? If you're not a true fan, then get out of this Facebook group. If you're not going to root for the Honolulu Blue and Silver every week, then we don't need you.
I'm just going to pick any fantasy running back against them.
Oh,
hope for that.
Yeah, here's this guy. I played against Joe this week, and I took out Josh Jacobs just to not have to root against a running, not root for a running back against the Lions. It turned out to be a stupid move, clearly.
Yeah, because who was the running back you had in instead?
I chose Austin Eckler. Oh.
No, but who was the old guy from the Chiefs?
Oh, I still had. Well, yeah, I had to play him. I had to play McCoy.
Yeah.
But I subbed in Eckler for Jacobs, and it just...
But yeah, that's the key. Play any running back against the Lions.
Running back. And why? Why, though? This defensive line is supposed to be so good. It's supposed to be the heart of the team. But it's not.
I don't know. It's just the scheme. I think if they blitzed more, those guys went after the quarterback, they would get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and our defense would be a lot better. But I feel like it's our scheme, not our players. And that sucks because we're not going to change our scheme, you know? Like, we should have a good defensive line.
I know, it sucks, man. All right, so let's look ahead to these Bears. Another lackluster team.
Yeah.
Way overhyped, I guess.
Yeah.
You got two. I mean, does this game even matter now? Like,
no.
They're pretty lowly too, man. Like, the Bears were expected to do better than the Lions. The Bears were expected to compete this year.
Yeah, Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Contention for sure.
You know, they made the big trade for Matt, gave up a lot of picks, you know, a lot of their future assets for Khalil Mack, and a lot of this stuff is blowing up in their face. The biggest thing about the Bears, I think you could look at right now, is the fact that they passed up on a couple superstar quarterbacks. They traded up to get Trubisky on one pick. They gave up a lot to move up one pick to get Trubisky and passed up on some superstar quarterbacks. And things are falling apart for them too. So this is like a crash course right now of teams that are just not doing well, you know. And I think the Lions actually, I think the Lions right now are the better team, you know. But who knows, man? Interesting. I think it's just because the Bears are at home. It's at Soldier Field. But the Bears start out as 2.5 favorites. So Vegas thinks Chicago, they probably just think it's going to be two mediocre to less than mediocre teams slugging it out. Whoever makes the worst play, you know, is probably going to win the game. Whoever
or lose the game,
lose the game, yeah. Whoever.
Are you predicting another tie, Tom?
I'm not gonna, but I'm pretty close to it, man. I would like to point out, man, you know, it was, like I said, man, it was, that tie almost came to fruition last week. That's all I'm saying. Probably should have. But
and then Trubisky, I mean, what's been his problem this year? We better put pressure on him. If we don't, and we just let him sit there, and he beats us, I'm going to be pissed.
This might be the game. This might be the one game this year where it's just sitting back and letting the quarterback
pick apart the defense.
Yeah, will come to the Lions' advantage. Trubisky just looks terrible, man.
Yeah, I don't know. They're all NFL quarterbacks. They're all professionals. I think it doesn't matter who it is. You don't put pressure on them. They're going to put the ball where it needs to be. And that's what the Lions need to do to him because he's had an awful year. Their defense has been good, but they haven't been great. Their offense has been awful, but like Dan said earlier, it's partly because they're not sustaining drives, so their defense is out there a lot. So I do think the Lions can beat them, but I'm just worried about Trubisky actually looking good because I'm not putting pressure on him. And then last week, Montgomery had a good week, so their running game might be starting to come together, which, last game we let up 171 yards, so that worries me a little bit as well. None of their wide receivers or anything scare me. They got a couple of shifty slot guys.
Yeah.
But they haven't really done much either.
Allen Robinson, he's a star, but
he doesn't scare you.
You can lock him down.
Yeah.
And who else they got? They really don't. And you look at these totals they were putting up, man. 3 points, 16 points. They put 31 on the Redskins. Who cares? Anybody can do that. 16 against the Vikings. They put up 21 points on the Raiders. They put up 25 points against the Saints in a loss. 16 points against the Chargers. 14. This offense is putrid, man. It's just awful. pick a word that's bad, and that's the Bears' offense right now. And if the Lions can't shut this offense down and go out and just throw the ball all over the field, man, I think this is a game that is lined up for the Lions to go out and just pick Chicago apart. And it's a game that, like, if they come out and look really good and the defense looks good, it'll get the fan base a little bit more fired up again. And it'll just be another one of those wins in a meaningless season. And that's what I think this game is. It's going to be the Lions are going to come out, they're going to look good, they're going to be better and play better than a team that is down and is only going down. But it's just going to mean nothing. But it's going to get the fan base a little bit fired up, and it's going to get us back in the positive range, you know.
If we just win a few more games,
yeah,
we'll make the playoffs.
4-4-1 looks a lot better than 3-5-1.
Yeah,
you know. So, but I think the Lions can go out and handle the Bears. I think the Bears are falling apart right now. I think the Lions, they're just so. That's what it is, man. Maddening, just frustrating. But I think they win this game, man. I think they win this game. I'm gonna say 31-17.
Yeah, I don't see that. I just the Lions' inability to stop anybody, even if it's the Bears, even if Trubisky who's been struggling. I think that run defense is so bad right now for the Lions that I think the Bears will be able to run. I think they'll run for close to at least 150 yards, and that will open up things for Trubisky. Give him some easier throws, give him some good situations. Good passing situations, and I think we'll see a better Trubisky than we've seen.
It's going to be the headline next week. Yeah. Is Trubisky back?
And their Lions
was he worth the second round?
The defense is going to make
the second
defense going to make Trubisky look good, even though he's not a great quarterback. That he'll look good against the Lions just because that defense is so bad right now.
That worries me.
And the Lions' inability to run the ball, and I think that Bears pass rush will be able to get to Stafford. And because the Lions are going to be in a lot of automatic passing situations, a lot of third and longs, and you're going to see Khalil Mack and that Bears pass rush get after Stafford, and they maybe force some turnovers. And I think the Bears win this game. I'm going to say 24-13 Bears.
I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. I guess I'm the tiebreaker, but Dan made a lot of good points where they're not going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to have the line tee off on Stafford. And I am worried about Trubisky actually looking good because I'm not putting pressure on him like every other team has and force him to turn the ball over or not do anything throughout any of the games. So I'm actually really, really torn. I do think it's going to be a very, very close game. Probably come down to whoever has the ball last. But I will give the Lions the win just because that offense is horrible, and I don't think the defense is as great as they were. So I give the Lions a little bit of the edge. So I'll give the Lions a win, 21-20, 1 point game.
Yeah, forward down the field. Final thoughts here as we wrap this up. If the Lions do win this game, can we continue hope, or is the damage already been done?
They've dug themselves too big of a hole. And
even though there's too many good teams whole division lost last week, though.
It doesn't matter. They were so far ahead of them anyways. It doesn't matter. The Vikings and Packers are so far ahead of them. You look at the Seahawks and the Rams. The Seahawks ended up coming back and winning.
The Seahawks are looking good.
There's just too many teams ahead of them.
Yeah.
There's too many teams ahead of them for them to have to catch up. They've blown too many chances. The Arizona game's going to come back to haunt them. The Green Bay game, the Kansas City game, those are all games they should have won. Even at the end of the day, those are games they should have won. You could say what it could have, should have. You could say refs. You could say
what
this,
if they
that,
rattle
the
off three
the
straight?
Games they should have won. They didn't win those games.
What if they rattle off three straight? Well, would you, if they win three straight games, would you garner up some hope, or will you still be sitting there like, man, it doesn't matter?
Well,
I know it's all hypothetical, but there are three straight wins to be had right now.
There really are, Dallas, for sure.
So if they win three straight, would you guys be kind of like, hey man, something can get going here, or are we at the point already where the second half of the season is irrelevant?
If they win three straight games, that means some things have definitely changed. That means they're getting pressure on the quarterback. The defense has improved. Maybe they're getting to find something in their own running game. A lot of things would have to come to fruition for them to win three straight. So, yeah, if all those things happen and they win 3 straight and you're starting to see some improvements in some areas that have been huge problems for them, yeah, maybe I'll gain some hope. But I don't think any of that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to win 3 straight. I don't think they're going to be able to fix these problems. And I think they're going to struggle the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you on that for sure. And they have to beat Dallas. That's one game they have to win because that's going to be the team that's up there. So if they lose that game, there's no chance because the other 2 are going to be, between Seattle, like you said, the Rams and.
Well, you got Seattle, the Rams. I mean, the Dallas is probably going to win their division. So you're looking outside of that. They're going to compete with them for a wild card. You're looking more at Philly. In that situation, and they have a win.
They're also going to win there. That's
right.
Yeah,
it could be.
Thinking Philly's. Wow. No, I keep thinking Philly's better.
Philly's
and the Lions have a win. And the Lions have a win over Philly. I mean, they could still play itself out, but I think the teams you got to look at are the Vikings, the Seahawks, and the Rams.
Yeah.
Vikings did lose, but they're still the Lions have a loss.
And then Carolina's starting to make a move too, man. Don't count out Carolina because especially with this wild card. Because the Saints. They look like they're going to win that division, but Carolina looks like they're right there for in that wild card race.
I just don't see.
You guys see that Cam went on IR. They're officially going with the kid Allen. Man, that's a interesting situation. We're going to see what happens with that. But Carolina's a team that's thick in the wild card. Like I said, Philly's right in there. Obviously, Minnesota and Green Bay are now going to battle it out for first and second in the North.
And Lions have losses to both of them.
Yep, yeah, exactly. With games against both of them.
Yeah, games left.
Still left with both of them. But I know. I'm not going to beat the Kool-Aid drinker this week right now, saying, "Oh man, we're primed for a." We're primed for a run here, man. We went out west and we had a tough loss, but we're going to learn from that, and we're going to be better, and we're going to win the next 8 games.
If the Lions would have won against Arizona and maybe won one of the 2 against Green Bay and Kansas City, we're right there for them. They had leads in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Say they get 2 out of those 3, right? That they ended up 0-2-1. And they actually win 2 of those 3, right? Then you can say, okay, yeah, they went out west. Yeah, it's frustrating with the play call. But you could have said, well, they kind of had a game that they could slip because they won those earlier games. But they didn't win those earlier games. They didn't. So, that's why I got so pissed off with the moral victories and this and that. And people saying, well, at least they competed, though. They look like a good team. Yeah, but these games you can't afford to lose. If you have leads late in the fourth quarter, you can't afford to lose those games.
Yeah.
Because then now you're putting yourself in must-win situations. They had to go out and beat Oakland. They put themselves in those situations because they didn't win those games earlier in the year. And they went out on the road and lost it.
Yeah.
And now they're in a situation where they pretty much damn near got to win out to make the playoffs. And that's not going to happen. I think we can all agree with that. That's not going to happen.
Nope. Probably not. All right. Man. All right, so that's our final thoughts on these Lions. Here we are, mid-season. November's coming. That winter chill's coming. And Lions frustration is it's here.
We're already looking for that.
Already thinking about the draft status.
Thinking about firing the coach, firing the GM.
Firing the coach, the GM.
Who we're going to get next year on their draft.
Hey, we're
free agents.
Mark Cuban, do you want to come own a football team? Who would be best to own the Lions next week on the Detroit Sports Sit Down? No, that's an irrelevant episode because this team's probably never going to get sold. All right, man. I know, man. Here we are, man. It could have. What could have been, man. What could have been. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back next week to talk about these Detroit Lions and hopefully talk about a win over the Bears and maybe talk about some more sports, man. There are other sports in the Detroit sports scene. It doesn't seem like it sometimes, man, because these teams are so dang boring. It's a rough time to be a fan right now, but we're still talking about it because we love it. This is the Detroit Sports Sit Down. Peace.